Am I co-host?
Yes.
Okay. If that noise gets too troublesome, let me know. We could take a break and shift to another room. All right. Now, is everyone somewhere in Russia or right now? I see Mane's from Moscow. Sergey's from Moscow. I don't know. Oh, Margot is from Ufa, Bashkortostan. Hal Mecharez. That's all I could say in Bashkir. Anastasia Larichova. Where are you from? And Maria Mozgovaya Borchard. Oh, Camila, you're in Ufa too.
Maria, please share where you are now.
I'm in Moscow. Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hi. And I wonder if anyone knows where my background is from.
First, I thought it is Hermitage, but now it's something else. Is it, I don't know, Turkey?
Nope.
Russia?
It is Russia.
Yoshkar-Ola?
Nope.
No.
Maybe Kazan?
Oh, no. Dalsha.
It's Yekaterinburg. And I thought that you are there right now.
Why do I have a picture of Yekaterinburg? Well, because I used to live there. So I lived in Russia for 6 years. And most of that time I was back in the 90s, if you can imagine such a thing. 1992, I worked in Yekaterinburg on a humanitarian aid program through CARE, and then I went back to run the office for American councils, and I worked there from 94 to 97. So I feel I'm like Abrutsevsky Amerikanets, but I'm like Uralets. So I said, I'm going to put a picture of Yekaterinburg. So that's my connection. And it's interesting. I went back in 2007. It was interesting to see how it grew up. And it's like, wow, look at all this cool stuff now. And yes, I used to go to Ufa, Orenburg, Chelyabinsk, Tumen, Perm, Izhevsk, Salihard, and Surgut, and all those places up north. So it was a great time. And so I'm excited to be back with all of you to work on this program. Maria, should we officially start?
I think we should. Кто не успел, тот опоздал.
Согласен. So welcome to the Project Design and Management workshop. My name is Tom Toomey. I work for American Councils and have been, as I said, since 1994. So 27 years. Oh my gosh. I got my start as a flex recruiter and program office director in Yekaterinburg, as I mentioned before. And since then, I've been working in various countries. These days, I work south of Russia. So I work in India, Afghanistan, in Africa, in Ethiopia and Senegal. My main focus is short-term programming, English language and youth leadership programming, and also training. So since the pandemic, I've been doing a lot of virtual programming. So project design and management is something I've come to, you know, become kind of a pro at. And my colleagues invited me to do a train the trainers program. So that's what we'll be doing today and tomorrow. The Zoom session is slated for 2 hours. We'll probably not go that whole 2 hours. But you know, it's kind of the materials are rich, and you know, there's a lot of stuff to them, and I want to make sure that you understand how would you teach this to other people. So, how many of you have already been through a project design and management, or PDM as we call it, workshop? You can do a little reaction, like, or raise your hand. Either like this, or you could press the button down below. I didn't see too much hand waving, but why don't we do a reaction? If you go down and can click on the button and maybe do the heart. Um, um, life taught some lessons. Yes, Nastya. And may it still teach you some lessons. And Ekaterina, you were one of the mentors last year. So you're familiar with the sort of the outline and the vocabulary and how we do project design and management. I kind of like project design and management. I'm going to share my screen in a sec. Where did this go? Hold on a moment. Let me share my screen. There we go. So this is our project design and management trainers workshop. I'm the trainer, you're the trainees, and soon you will be the implementers or the trainers of this material. The purpose of this is to give you these skills so you can go out and train others in your communities. And what I've learned about project design and management, the more I teach it, is it has some really great skills that you can apply in so many fields, not just like, let's do a project. You can use it in so many different ways, and if not all of it, but some of it. So whoops. So the goals for the next 2 days are to familiarize yourself with the PDM trainers manual and the workbook, and also strategize best practices how to teach these materials. I believe, Masha, everyone got a copy of the trainer's manual and the workbook
Yes.
in Russian, and the links to the videos. So we'll go through those and make sure everyone has the materials, and you know, so everyone understands what we're talking about. So today we're going to talk about, there's 8 sessions in the PDM workshop. Today I was going to just do sessions 1 through 4, and tomorrow sessions 5 through 8. So the materials you should have, there's a PDM training manual. Here's a copy of it, a photo of it in English, but there is a Russian version. The PDM videos, There is a link to the playlist in YouTube, and it's called PDM Video Series Russian Version. If you forgot, don't have the link, and you Google like PDM, Flex PDM, you may not find it because it's unlisted. So you would have to ask Masha to get the link again. But these are videos that connect with the manual and the workbook as well. Which I think I put up there. So we're going to look at the training manual in just a second. So the goals for it is to, well, the goals that you want to apply to your trainees or the participants is giving them the skills to create a realistic project that they could use in their communities and improve it. Also to understand the different parts of a project, the whole process of it and how all of those pieces fit together. And also give them a chance to work as a team with people from different communities to create a project together. I think there's a lot of great things that can happen when people from different communities come together and realize, oh, well, our programs have the same, our communities have the same needs, so we can work together to implement a really effective program. So I'm just going to stop sharing. I'm going to go into the training manual here. Whoops. Let me share the training manual. As we're going through this, I will take questions and answers beforehand. So this is the this is our manual in Russian. Now, before we get into the details, I created this fun little poll. Oh, you guys have been taking the poll. Good. Let's see how well you. I'm going to end the poll. Not everyone. Well, let's see. Oh, I'm going to have you. Sorry, take the poll again, because not many people did. Just take a few minutes to answer these questions. There's 5 of them. But I want to test your knowledge of how well you know PDM. So take a few minutes. I've just launched the poll again. If you already took it, if you could kindly take it again, we'll have that open for just a few minutes before we get started. There we go. Okay, we got. I'll do about 30 more seconds. Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Okay. Let's see how well you did. There we go. I'm going to share the results here. So why is a personality test helpful in PDM? Two of you said understand how we can effectively work with others, understand how we can effectively create a team, both. I think it's both. So three, the majority, 50% said both. So yes, it's, we'll look at that in a few minutes, but it shows us what our skills and how you can create a team effectively by putting people with different skills together. Sasha has a great idea for a project, or Sasha's great idea for a project was not successful. What did he not do? Very good. The majority of you said he didn't do a needs assessment. And yes, we'll talk about that in a bit. Needs assessment is a really crucial step into having a successful project. Why is a resource map valuable in project planning? To know who can give you money. No one said that. Oh my, good. You're smart. You know your resources. But the third one, yes, to understand who can help you in and outside your community. And in your community means at a local level, outside means regional or international, national levels. So very good on you. Which one of these is the most general? Ooh, you were tied. Vision and goal. Vision is the most general of them. It's the broadest one, and then goal, and then objective. So, and there's some confusion about goals, objectives, and we'll clarify some of that language later. Possible outcomes of your project to think about when planning are called. Oh, a lot of you said SMART objectives. I tried to get a little tricky here. It's actually indicators of success. So when you're planning a project, you could think about what would be some outcomes to show that your project was successful. So it's indicators of success, and we'll talk about those in a bit. Okay, pretty good. So here's our training manual. I just wanted to go over how it looks. Did everyone get a chance to go through this and look at it? 50-50? Okay, well, that's what this is for. So the first few pages are basically directions for the trainer. It outlines the goals of the course, how the course is split up. So it's in 8 sessions that connect together. Each session is split into 3 parts. The let's think, let's watch, let's plan, and I'll go over those in a few minutes. So the first 2 pages kind of give you some explanation of how to run the class, explanation of the different sections, and some terminology that you might want to use with your trainees, just so they understand the, the jargon, as we say, or the language of project design and management. Some of these might be, oh, people know what a cell is. People know what a zadacha is. Those are kind of easy, but there's some other things like ocenka potrebnosti. Maybe they don't know what that is. So having some definitions of that. And as you go through this, if you could give us feedback, just saying, well, this isn't quite clear. Maybe we could change the translation. So, these were translated from English, and sometimes, especially with these sort of project language, things aren't always clear, and maybe you have some suggestions for making it clearer. Um, there's more explanation here about the how to run your sessions, a plan for each one. And then we go into the session. So here's your sessions, the session 1, session 2. Here are some questions for discussion. Here's the video watch and the planning session. I'll go through. I'm just going to reshare on the other screen. Hold on a sec. So I'm going to explain the different parts now, and then we'll go back and we'll look at sessions 1 through 4. Okay. So as I said, there's the 3 sessions. Let's think, let's watch, let's plan. So the let's think is really kind of waking up the student's brain, getting them motivated to focus on that component. The let's think, we have a warm up. So I would suggest every session you have, well, it depends, but the beginning of each day, if you did this, to have some sort of warm up. It could be an icebreaker, something fun to get the students kind of motivated and more comfortable working together, especially if they don't know each other. And then you have usually about 5 questions, 4 to 5 questions that touch on the component of the PDM for that discussion. So if you're talking about needs assessment, there are very specific questions that tie in with the theme, with needs assessment. And some of the questions like tap into their experience, maybe as participants of a program or organizers of a program, and just to kind of get them thinking about that and sharing their experience. The discussion questions can be done in a whole group all together, depending on how large of a group you have, or a small group. So you can break them up, and maybe, if you have, I don't know, 25 to 30 participants, you can break them up and have them discuss in small groups, 1 question each, and then come back together as a whole group to discuss before the next section, which is let's watch. If you haven't watched the videos yet, or if you're not familiar with them, my colleague David Milana has put together a really nice structured video series, and which are available on YouTube. So you could do a video viewing all groups, so have them watch the video if depending on how you're teaching it. If an all group, that's preferred, an all group session. The videos are very short. I think the longest one is 6 or 8 minutes. So they're very quick. They are subtitled in Russian. You can click on the CC button and they'll be able to see the subtitles. Depending on your venue and your approach to how you're viewing the videos, I prefer an all group one, but if it's not possible, on a projector would be best. But if you might have them just watch it on their phones, so everyone watches it on their phones, and then you come back together to discuss. They're pretty self-explanatory. David does a nice job of talking about the particular component, and there are worksheets that go along with it that are talked about at the end of each session. He also ties in an actual project he did in Kyrgyzstan, the JoJo project with his chickens, which is kind of cute and adds a human touch. So as they're learning about these components of putting together a project, they're also seeing how David put together a project using these PDM steps. And then afterwards is the let's plan. So the idea is that they take this information and then they work in small groups to create a feasible project that they could do in their community. What kind of project do they want to do? Well, that's up to them. We kind of can't say, well, do one on, social entrepreneurship or this or that. So we want them to really generate what would best fit for them and what is feasible. Now, feasible means what can they realistically do? The PDM Basics Workbook has the worksheets for each session. And we'll look at those in just a second. Okay, so when you're ready to conduct your first PDM training session, when you're going to go out into your community or and teach this, it's important for you to, be comfortable with the manual, the workbook, have a plan ready, and the video, so you know what you're talking about. And the lessons are pretty well structured, but you might look at it and say, well, I don't like that. I'm going to do this first, or maybe, add your own touch to it. And that's fine. This isn't PDM according to Tom. So, you have to be comfortable with it. And you might try it just the way it's set out in the manual. The difference, just do it that way. And you say, oh, that went well, but I want to do something different next time. And you can, mix it up. The main thing is that you're enjoying it, the students are enjoying it and learning, and that you're comfortable with it. It's important to plan out your sessions. Project design and management is all about planning and thinking things through. So, what kind of warm-ups are you going to do? If it's a group of students that are familiar with each other, maybe you don't need to do icebreakers, but it's nice to do warm-ups, just some sort of activity to get them ready for the sessions. In the manual, I say each one takes about 45 minutes. That's kind of a loose 45 minutes. Most of that is the let's plan session, where you have the student giving them time to work through their worksheets and put together, discuss and plan out things. I usually like to have about 30 minutes for that. Also planning out, make sure all your tech is ready. If you're going to do a PowerPoint presentation somewhere, make sure your laptop works with the the projector. Make sure it works with the projector. Make sure you have if the PowerPoint's on a flash, make sure the flash doesn't have a virus that can't be read in a computer you're going to use, and so on and so on. That's really important. Also, think about your groups. Depending if, like I just said, if it's a group of students who are familiar with each other, maybe plan out who is going to work with who, or if they don't know each other, thinking about icebreakers and warm-ups, getting to build trust within the group, and having students from different places come together and work together. Also, any materials. You don't really need a lot of materials for this. Students do need like a notebook for notes. You would have copies of, you can copy out the workbook for them to use. I think it's easiest instead of trying to use it on a laptop, because they're PDFs. So you can print those out for them. You don't necessarily, the teaching manual, the trainer's manual, you don't need to print out for them. That's for you. If you'd like to have a copy, so it's all ready. Any flip chart paper, pens, markers, and things like that that students might need to work together in creating their project. Whoops. Okay. So sessions 1 through 4 we're going to discuss today. There's session 1 is basically an overview of project design and management. And I think the most important thing to remember in that is that project design is a process that, you know, we want to rush in. Yeah, I want to go help my community, but how am I going to help it? I have to think it through, and getting your participants to really understand that. The personality test is the first session, and that's sort of the activity. How many of you did the personality test? I mean, I'm sure all of us at one time in our lives have done the personality test. Did any one of you do this one? And if so, I'd love to hear what your results were. I think I did this one, and I was the diplomat. And if anyone just wants to, you could put it in the chat, like what, I would love to hear what, oh, Nastia's a diplomat trainer. Okay. Anyone else? You could just put it in the chat. It'd be great if we could see what you were. Excuse me. I gotta plug in my computer. A console. Okay. So we got to do. Anyone else want to add theirs to the chat? I see 2 people did it. So why do we do personality tests? You know, like why, you know, my thing, why is this relative? It's a fun activity. So students can kind of evaluate themselves and what they're good at. And it's a practice to really, when you're putting together a team, like what strengths do people have? Some people, like I'm a people person, I can talk to anyone. Some people on my team may not be, but they're very good at like tech and all of that stuff, which I'm not great at. But they can, you know, so we put together different skills to create a really solid team. If like Nastia and I are both diplomats, you know, that's what I got. So maybe together we're kind of too much of the same, and maybe we want to work with Maria, who's a consul, and has a different skill set. So it's really kind of a fun way to get your students to see what they are, and then based on that, you can kind of group people based on their skills. And it's always interesting. I've done this before where everyone took the test, and then we kind of mix them up and to see. And then we had one where it was kind of like, you know, we did a little differently. Like we did one group where it was all the same kind of person, and to see the different results, which was kind of fun. Overall, there wasn't a huge difference, but I think that where it's mixed, sometimes there was some challenges with getting to agree on an idea, and why the one that were all like diplomats or, you know, the same skill, they kind of were like all on the same page and could work a little faster. So it's always interesting to kind of throw people of different skill sets together to see how they can work. Oh, Ekaterina, your personality changed. My. Why do you think that happened? You were an enthusiast to an adventurer. Well, that sounds like a good change. I mean, you have enthusiasm to adventure. Ekaterina, let me ask, why do you think it changed? If you want to just unmute yourself, you could let us know. The approach to life could have changed. True, yeah. You know, I'm sure if I do this test now, I might be a little different, because I did it, I think, around 2 years ago. And yeah, as we progress through life, we have different experiences that change us. So if you haven't done this personality test, this one I chose. There are many out there, and in the video, David recommends another one, but I changed it just because since you'll be doing this in Russian and we translated everything into Russian language, this one I've done in English, but it also had a version in Russian. Camila got different. I got results in different names. You were Hugo. Aha. Очень интересно. Okay, so this is also, you could see session 1 is like an introduction to project design and management, going over terminology, getting them to understand what it is and the process. And also the 16 personalities, the personality test is a fun way. It could be also kind of a warm up, and you can use the results in different ways to energize your team. Okay. Session 2, we begin to talk about project design and management and sort of like getting to the planning part. There is a resource map. David talks about the resource map. What is a resource map? Well, before we do anything, we have to say, well, like, what do we have? Who can help us? We're never alone when doing a project. So this is where the personality traits come in, the personality test. So you have this individualny uровень. So like, what do you have on a personal level? And then this got a little mixed up. It's regionalny municipalny uровень. And then the third one, the larger one, is the nacionalny международный уровень. So individual is like, well, what do I have? Let's think about that right now. And let me ask you, what do you have? Just put maybe a skill that you have that would be good for a project. You can type it in the chat. But it'd be kind of interesting to see what people have. I'm going to start with mine. I am very good at organizing. So that's what, I'm a good organizer. So that's what I would put in individualny uровень. I don't limit it to one. In this little square, you can have them list as many as they have. So this is a good way for participants to really start thinking about what do they have. So Dennis is good at communications. Creativity. All right. Keep the chat going. I like to see that. Oh, Maria, I'm going to work with Maria. She's good at follow-up. I am not great at follow-up. So I would want to work with Maria, because that would be great to have someone who can do that. So these are good ways to tap it. What do I have? A lot of times, people are like, yeah, I want to just jump in there, but they don't think about these things. So thinking about these, seeing the process, going slowly, really helps flesh out a feasible community project. Yes, Nastya, it's good to think about resources in categories such as material, financial, relationship, organizational knowledge, and skill. Yes, very good. And that's where these come in. So at a regional, municipal, or regionalny, and municipalny uровень, that's where some of these resources would come into play. A lot of times when we think of resource, we think of деньги, we think of money. And it's not always money. It can be some funding, but it's also materials, as Nastya said. It could be well, we're going to do this project, but we need, we need supplies, and maybe you have a local business owner who could donate, say, oh, we want to do T-shirts for our program, and great. So we have a local guy at the market who has T-shirts, and then he has a friend who prints on them. So we want to print a logo. I have a friend who's a graphic designer. If I don't have someone on my team, I might have someone in my community who could do some graphic designing. And maybe you have someone who will give you some money for some of the funding. We'll talk about cost sharing when we get into budgeting tomorrow. And then a national, international Urban as well, the Nationalny Międzynarodny. And that could be a, an NGO, it could be someone at a higher level, it could be a ministry or department of education, or someone in the government that can provide some sort of support. If you're going to do a training, for example, for the project design and management, you might need a space. So that's a regional and municipal level. So, thinking about, like, if you're doing this training for 25 people, where are you going to do it? Can you use the school? What connections do you have in your community? That's just like one way to think about this as well. When we think about it in terms of a resource map and we're teaching it, we want our participants to think about, like, what skills do I bring to a project? And they don't, at this stage, they don't have to have a project in mind. It might, it's like, well, we're going to teach, the babushki in my town English, or how to use phone apps. Like, we don't need to have that project in our minds. We just have to think about, well, what resources do we have? And in the video on this, David talks about that. Like, he worked in a community in Kyrgyzstan. He was a Peace Corps volunteer, and he talks about, like, well, what resources did he have? What was he good at? And what resources were in the region and at the national level that he could tap into? So this is an important step of just thinking about those things. And you could use this, you could just have them write in these squares. They're kind of skinny squares, or you could just use this graphic and they can write in their notebook and kind of diagram it out. So sometimes with formatting and with translation, these squares get a little small. So or they could just write here at the bottom. You can have them decide. But it's important for them to think about those resources. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions about this Karta Resourcev, or resource map as we call it? You can raise your hand or put something in the chat. Okay. The needs assessment. This, I would say, is probably the most crucial part of any project design or project you're going to implement or have your students implement. And as we call it in Russian, оценка потребностей. So these graphs, these are two charts that David talks about in the video, but this is really important. And going back to the poll about Sasha, and he had a really great idea, but it was not, his project was not successful. And this happens a lot. Someone has a great idea and they got some money and they say, hey, I'm going to do this. And I work a lot in Afghanistan, so I see this happen a lot with a lot of like USAID programs and things like that, where someone has a great idea in Washington. This is my idea. I'm going to go do this. And they implement a project, and it's not very successful. It's a lot of, not just USAID, but there's like organizations that say, we're going to go build a school in Afghanistan. and they know nothing about the country, and they look on a map and they choose a community or connect with people, and they send all this money to build a school, and then no one goes to the school. So, you know, we want to build a school for girls, and then it's like, well, you're in a village where parents don't want their children to go to school or their daughters to go to school. Who knows why? But they never really connected with the community and asked them what they needed. So this is a really important step for students to understand what needs does a community have, and what can they feasibly implement, what kind of project. So if we look at this, there are different ways that you find out the needs. You could do a survey, you could do a focus group, you can, you know, different way, you know, talk to people in communities and find out and figure it out how you do that. I might, and there's different ways you do that. Is it, oh my God, I can't read this. It's intensive or extensive or intensive. So there's different, I might have to go back to the English on this one. But basically, what format are you using? Intensive is more like research, doing some research, doing surveys. Extensive is like talking to people, having focus groups. This seems a little, you know, big for a lot of projects, but it's an important thing to think of like, how do you get information to find out what a community needs? If I were asking all of you right now, what sort of needs does your community need? Like, what are the needs of your community? You can put them in the chat if you'd like. But you know, every community needs different things. I'm going to, what does I live in Brooklyn, New York. What does Brooklyn need? Oh, I know. Better roads. Believe it or not. So, so there's something, if you want to put something else in that you think, what are some needs of your community? I'm going to put 2 in. Ah, yes, Yekaterina. There are so many needs, but more time. Oh, I like this one. More time to decompress and rest. I like that one. I put touristic routes in Bashkortostan. Hey, better healthcare. So some of these seem feasible, and some of these are kind of like, well, those are kind of beyond, like better healthcare, Denise. Is that something like we could take care of? Maybe yes, maybe no. Probably not. That sounds very large. For example, I put up there, like in Brooklyn, I think, you know, our streets are like, they're terrible. They're potholes and everything. I think we need better roads. Can I, as an individual, change that? No, I can't go hire people to go out and do that. That's the city's job. And it's kind of similar to healthcare. Better healthcare is it's very general. We might pick something that can touch upon that. And I'm going back to what Nastya said about more time to decompress and rest. Maybe that could be something, you know, we can conduct classes in yoga or meditation or some sort of exercise, or helping people manage their well-being. We call it now well-being, um, to have better mental health, better physical health. So there might be some specific projects we can do. Um, if we're saying better healthcare, that might be, wow, that's like taking on the whole healthcare system of a country, and that's kind of big. Um, a project of on awareness of self-health monitoring. Yeah, that seems more feasible. So now, if you're doing a needs assessment, so if we go to Maria's project on awareness of self-health monitoring, how are we going to see? Well, what kind of self-health monitoring? What are we going to do? What are people having problems with? Is it, you know, because of the pandemic, people are more isolated, people are more depressed, people are more stressed. So how do we find that out? We could do focus groups. We can ask local, um, you know, we could ask people we know, do a questionnaire in our community. So there's different ways that we can find out what exactly people are having trouble with. And then we could start working on a project to help them with their mental health and monitoring that. So again, this is a very important part of the pre-project planning, as I call it. Oh, now we get into the fun part, the vision, the goals, and objectives. Or zamysl, celi, i zadachi. So here we have these workshops, and I can guarantee you this is a part that you really have to understand yourself before teaching it to others, because it can be very confusing. Now, one thing David brings up in the video, a lot of times people say, well, goals and objectives are the same thing. The way he broke it down, he explains it in the video, so it's rather clear. So basically, we're kind of going from broad to narrow. And so if we did, our vision is to provide self-health care, or self-health awareness in the community. Well, what does that, how are we going to do that? And it's breaking it down. Well, one, so the vision is the broader thing. So if we're going to focus on improving the self-health of people in our community, okay, great. That's very broad. What is the goal? It can't be the same thing as the vision. So we want to think of our goals for that. What are we going to do? We're going to provide information on how to live a healthy life. We're going to have, you know, classes on meditation 3 times a week, and at, you know, at a yoga center or whatever. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So your vision is broad, and then the goals are like, well, these are the activities we're going to do, and then the objectives is why are we doing this? What do we hope to get out of it? So if we provide meditation for, you know, students at a university 3 times a week, what, you know, what do we hope to get out of this? We hope to that students are able to manage their stress level, that they're able to become more focused and more productive in their studies, have maybe like improve relationships with their friends and family, you know, so you can start thinking about what you want to come out of that. And this is always kind of tricky. I think the easiest way is just for you to think of, like, you know, vision is very broad, and then your goals are like sort of more specific, and then the objectives are the they have to be smart. So it's like the objectives are actual things you're doing. And does anyone know what SMART means? Do you remember what it means? Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. S is specific. M is measurable. All right, Mane, keep going, Mane. What's the A? Wait, we forgot A. Okay, we're SMART. Somebody forgot A. Yes, attainable or achievable. Either one. They kind of go back and forth. So very good. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So are they smart? Do they, do they make sense? Are they measurable? Can you have it? Is there like a beginning and an end, or is it is a result something that's you can do? Can you measure it? And that's where you get into specifics like number of people and things. Can you have this goal and have some sort of objective that is measurable? You can measure it. Realistic, can it be done? We want to improve the healthcare system of the country. That's not realistic. We want to provide mental health awareness or improve the mental health of 50 students at Orgu University. That's realistic. And wait, did I miss achievable, or I meant achievable or attainable means, is it something that we can do? It's a goal we can reach within a certain amount of time. Realistic, I just explained, and time bound is how much time will this take? If you say you have to give a specific time, so within 3 months, within a month, for a week, so really have a specific time. These things are becoming more and more with any project, even at the small level, but if there's any sort of project or ideas for getting, funding or that students want to do, these things really come into play a lot more and more. So I mean, I've before, like I run a English language program for students from Afghanistan. We do a big a pre and a post test to see, did their English improve. Okay, and now it's like, well, how did it improve? And like, really thinking like, what is your vision? And before it was like, well, we're just going to teach them English and leadership and conflict transformation. Now it's like, we really have to break this down. Well, okay, your goal, conflict transformation, what does that mean? What skills are you going to give them? So getting as specific as possible is very helpful in planning out a project. And this is really tricky of understanding these things and how they come into play. I always find when training students on the vision, goals, and objectives that they find this is really difficult, especially between the vision and the goal, is making them sound different. The vision is broader and the goal has to be a little more specific. Excuse me. Oh, not yet. Does anyone have any questions so far? Excuse me. You can ask in the chat or unmute yourself. I'm going to go back into the teacher training manual. Everything is cleat, Denise. Oh, clear. let's, oops. If you don't mind, do you mind if I use the English version of the trainer's manual, or you prefer Russian? Let's see what the vote is. Who voted? You don't mind. You're fine. Молодец. Okay. All right. So here's the information. I already kind of explained that. There is a link in the English one. In the Russian version, there should be a link here to the PDM video series. If you have trouble getting to that, please let us know. You never know how, when you embed a link into a document, whether people can see it or not. As I said, terminology is really important. If your students want to do this in English, you're welcome to do it in English, but I think I was told that you would be doing it with more Russian speaking students, so you have the Russian already there. So here's, well, we'll go back to that in a second. One thing on the session notes, there's a link here to the ultimate camp resource map, and it has a whole list of activities and things like that if you need some inspiration for icebreakers, for warm-ups, things to do with your group. I highly recommend it. So let's look at this last page. So the idea is that by the end of your workshop that your groups will be presenting a project and showing all the steps. And this is where flip chart paper and markers and all that fun stuff comes in. So you want to have them not implementing the project, but you have a project proposal. And there's a few ways you can do that. An easy way and a fun way is to have, depending on your space, is to have a gallery walk. So you have the groups at different stations and they have their flip chart up with an explanation, and then people can walk around and you can have them present. These are different ways. You can have them all sit down, everyone gets up, presents, whether on PowerPoint, whether on a flip chart. But that gets a little dull. The gallery walk is kind of fun because people can move around and, oh, I like this one, or like, oh, let me look at this one and ask some questions about it. And it's a nice way to share. Sort of like you're walking through the Hermitage and looking at paintings, but instead you're looking at project proposals. The Shark Tank style, where maybe you can have some of your friends come in, or Flex alumni that they could come in and be like this panel of entrepreneurs, or people who are looking to invest in something, and so the groups get up and present, and there could be some asking questions and sort of this like friendly competition. And then your panel of funders would like say, oh, we like this project the best, it's the most realistic. And so I've done this before, and it's a lot of fun. It's also, you can have your panel be certain characters and like create this image of if they're an entrepreneur or a businessman or something like that. It can be a lot of fun. Peer presentations work well, and you kind of break up the group and have like representatives from each group. You split them up and they go and talk to others, and present to other groups. And the two, like say you have a group of 4, everyone's in groups of 4, you have 2 go and present to one group, and then the 2 that they're presenting to presents to them, and they can have a discussion. that's kind of nice, especially if you have a bigger group of people, because it kind of breaks it up, and then they could report back to the larger group. So those are 3 ways you can do your presentation. The end of workshop evaluation. So if you want to do a survey of some sort, this is a nice way for you to get feedback, how things went, how to improve things for the next time. Excuse me, you want to do that, and so on. Okay. I'm going to take, we're done about an hour now. Let's take a 5-minute break. If anyone needs to, get a drink, well, I need to get a drink of water. Drink of water, go to the bathroom, whatever. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll discuss I'll go like session by session on these, and then we'll have a question and answer session, and then you are free to go. So see you in 5 minutes. And I'll put on some nice music. I hope I hope you enjoyed the little Bollywood there. I work in India a lot these days, so I'm a fan of Bollywood music. Okay, how's everyone doing? I got a clap, I got a heart. Ni skuchna, interesna?
Yep, perfect, everything's good.
All right. All right, everyone shut off their videos. We're gonna do a little game. Now let's see if you, hopefully those who haven't turned on their videos will turn them on. So let's see. Turn on your video if you do not live in Moscow. Oh, okay. Dennis, where are you living?
Well, I'm originally from Voronezh, and right now I also still live here. I used to travel a lot before the pandemic, but yeah, now most of my time I spent over here in Voronezh.
Okay. I've never been to Voronezh, but I have a lot of friends who studied there.
You're always welcome.
All right. Okay. Well, now we're going to shut off our videos. Let's see. Turn on your video if you own a cat or a cat. Let's just do, I'm a cat person. Let's see all the cat people in the room. All right. That means people who are not having videos on means you're dog lovers or bird lovers. Okay. Dennis is a dog lover. All right. Okay, one more. I have to tell you a cat story. When I lived in Yekaterinburg, I had 3 cats. I had a mom, a dad, and then I started recruiting for a flex, and they had babies, and I kept one of them. So I had 3 cats. And when I left Russia in 1997, I took the cats with me, and they weren't like porodisny or anything. So someone in the news found out I was taking these cats, and then suddenly I had the radio, the newspaper, the news stations coming to my house to film and take pictures of my cats going to America. So good, strong Russian cats. They live very long lives. The parents lived to 17 and the baby lived to 21. So yeah, Здорові русські кошки. All right. Let's see, the last one. Turn on your cameras if you are wearing blue. All right, Dennis is wearing blue. Mane, Nastya. All right, Maria's wearing, oh yes.
On my lower part, yeah.
It's funny, I usually wear blue. Today is like one day I'm not wearing blue. So there we go. Okay.
Blue's my favorite color.
Blue's my favorite color too, and it's the one day I'm wearing gray. All my blue things, yeah. All right. You know, I try to wear other colors as well, but you know, I go into the store, I say, I'm gonna buy something green, and then it's like, oh, but I like this blue shirt.
Yeah, I'm driving in a blue car, and here's my blue coat.
All right. Well, hopefully, you know, you can focus on the road and focus on the PDM as well. Молодец. Okay. So I'm going to just go down. Go sort of page by page of the sessions for, so you can see them, we can discuss them, and if you have any questions. So each page, I'm going to go through the English version. There we go. So the first part is introduction. There's 5 questions, as I said, in the let's think. So before you jump right into let's think. The introduction, you really want everyone to get comfortable with each other, do some warm-ups. You know, if you're doing this on Zoom, you could do something like I did. I love doing the shut off your video, turn on the videos. There's, you know, lots of things you can do that way. If it'd be nice if you're doing it in person, if that's possible. If so, you know, you can think of warm-ups where they're getting to know each other and, you know, feeling comfortable. You know, you want to build that sense of trust within the group. As I said, the let's think is kind of taps in, getting them thinking about certain things related to the topic. The introduction one is kind of is just an introduction, and there isn't like a ton of work they're going to be doing, but it's setting the ground for things. So we focus on the personality test, get them thinking about projects, what kind of projects you want to do, finding out what skills we have. And this is really a nice way to, you know, having them think about what they're good at, and then getting them, kind of grouping them together in different groups all together. So you can ask these questions just as like warm up in a whole group or small groups. And then you're going to watch the video. You can explain to them about the video series. It's number 1. And David goes in, and then you have these post-viewing questions. So usually there's 3 or 4 questions related to the video. So it's not just like sitting there looking at a video. It is like listening for information. Depending on your group, if you want to give them the questions beforehand, you can, so they know what to listen for. Or you can have them, you know, you could just have them watch the video and then have these 3 questions for discussion. So what are the different parts of the project? Which part is presented in video 1? So these are, questions you can have them look at. You should be familiar with the answers. I started reading this question. What are the different parts of a project? Does anyone know? That he goes into? There's resource map, needs assessment, but I think what David is talking about is the different stages. Is it like analysis? I see Camilla shaking her head. There are 5. Nastya, what are they? Are you going to type it?
I made a screenshot of when I was watching the video, but when I do that, my brain doesn't record it because it knows I can always go back and look at the screenshot.
So what did the screenshot say?
There was analysis, there
Yes.
was planning. A second. Analysis, setting priorities, planning, action, and evaluation.
Yeah, good. Umnitsa. So analysis, like the first part, the analysis is like really important. And it's important to understand projects are a process. So people can slow down and see that it's like pieces putting together slowly to get something really good. I work on a lot of like projects, different projects, and like right now we're working on a grant for a project in Afghanistan. So it's like a lot of people coming together and really thinking it through, so you get a really solid project. Some of these are reflective questions. So the first 2 are kind of questions David talks about, and it can be answered from the video. But then the third one really gets them thinking. Well, like okay, why do we take a personality test? Well, so we can group ourselves to have a balanced set of work skills. So you can have them do this depending on how you do it. I don't think you need to do every session separately. In my mind, you are in some school or some center, and you have a group of people in person, and you're doing this. And you could do it all in one day. It's pretty easy to do. Or if you want to take your time, split it into 2 days. So you can have them right there. They got their phones, their laptop, whatever, and they could take the. It says it's a 16 personalities test, and then they could share the results, and that's kind of a fun way to end session 1 and begin session 2. So session 2, we start getting into the planning, the analysis of the project. So resource analysis, we're talking about the resource map, getting them, so you can start having them think in the let's think section. Like, well, what is resources? Have them list things, have them discuss that. Like, what do you think a resource is? Is it like, just money, or is it like other things? Because a lot of times we think, oh, resource, that means money. Or it means water, electricity, or like things you pull out of the ground, gold, silver, all that kind of stuff. But it's also, people and time and skills. So getting them to think that broader picture of resources, that's a great discussion. And then thinking about resource analysis and getting them to think, well, I have a project in mind, and what resources do I have? And maybe they're like, well, my father's a business, like owns a bookstore, and he's going to donate books. Or my friend's father owns a stationery store, and he's going to give us paper and markers and all this stuff. So, okay, so they're starting to think about that. Then we watch our video, and you have the post-viewing questions. You can do this. You don't have to do it for every lesson, but maybe some lessons where you think they may need some help figuring things out. You could say, you know, tell them, in this video, I want you to watch or listen for, like, I really want you to focus on what David's skills are and which ones he put on there. Or, you know, I want you to really focus on what David says about resource map. So these are kind of warming them up and preparing them for what to listen to. That's really important. And although the videos are in English, there are subtitles. So, you know, their English is not good enough to listen in English, you know, they could read the subtitles. So in session 1, by the end of it, the idea is that everyone took a personality test, and you kind of can put people together based on their like the results of their test. And you know, you could do kind of a poll on a piece of paper where you're like, well, who is what, and then, you know, like, I'm the diplomat, I'm the doer, I'm the, you know, the thinker, the consul, whatever the personalities are, and see how you can put them together in groups. And then the groups can create a name for themselves, and start, you know, really getting together as a group. Starting with session 2, we're getting into project planning and thinking about a project, analyzing things. So in the Let's Plan section, they would go into the workbook, and I will just briefly show you that. So here's for session 1. So we have Osnovy PDM Practicum, a very beautiful cover. As you see, I don't have a graphic designer. I don't have a nice picture for that, but извините. So here's for section 1 or session 1. And here's the personality test. They would just click on that link, and it tells them the steps. So they would have a copy of all of these worksheets and templates they use for each session. So this one, they would go here, and then they would work together in their groups to really think out the different levels of resources they have. Oops. Sorry about this. Okay. Hey, I lost my booklet. Okay. I have to confess, the one thing I hate about Zoom is you can't do a full screen and then share your screen. You have to share your screen and then blow it up. There we go. So back to project groups. So here it's like, take 10 minutes to map out your group's resources. Now the first question will be, do we all have to do it, or one resource map per group? One resource map per group. But just to help them with the practice, they're all going to have a copy of it and they can all do it together. So they're all experienced like thinking through this, but they would present one, they would have one for the group, but they can use it if they'd like. They could do their own so they have a copy of that, what they did. And then, you know, there's always a group share. So, you know, okay, I'm going to take mine and I'm going to share it with Camila's group and then get some feedback. You're like, oh, and then maybe Camila's group is going to ask me questions about my resource map. It's not a chance for them to criticize each other. It's a chance for them to ask questions like, oh, that looks good. Oh, I like that you, this is a resource for your project and maybe I could use the same resource, not copy theirs, but you know, that's something they didn't think about that is also in their community or could be part of their project. So after this group share, then they can see what's similar and different, and then if they want to change anything on their resource map, they can. The next is the needs assessment. So we have 3 questions that kind of tap into it. And like I asked you before, what is something your community needs? And really getting them to think about that. What does your community need? And also, why is it important to do this before a project? And having them think about what would happen if you don't do a needs assessment. You have an impractical project and you spend a lot of time having this great idea and then it doesn't come to successful fruition. And then here we have David talking. David does a great job of talking about a needs assessment, especially in particular what he did. And does anyone remember, like he had kind of 2 options in his village, what he could have done? You remember which
For the
needs there were?
update the school that was 90 years old or help his host family to get an income that would suffice when they get old and can't work.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and one was realistic and one was not realistic. So, you know, he did want to help the school but he realized, you know, that's something kind of not in his wheelhouse, as we say, or it was not feasible for him. He didn't have the resources to help the school. Plus, you know, again, it's like going to something, well, that's sort of like at the Ministry of Education level, they should be helping the school. And as one person, that was hard. But what was something closer to his heart was helping his host family, helping the people who he lived with for 2 years as a Peace Corps volunteer, and thinking of income. So, you know, like Nastya said, you said it very nice. It sounded like a vision. Helping my host family uh, uh, create a source of income so they have money coming in. One thing to kind of you might want to explain a bit is extensive and intensive tools. And I'm just going to go back here quickly if it's in the vocabulary. Yes. So during some of your sessions, you might want to go back and maybe as part of your warm up is like review some vocabulary. So we're going to talk about extensive tools. That's measuring information over a large quantity. That could be a survey or a questionnaire of a large group of people. Intensive is something more like focus, like a smaller group, focus groups, some research on specific groups of people, and so on. So getting your students to understand that. Also, the needs assessment is, you know, a lot of people, this is kind of the standard definition, it's a bridge. So you have the reality of a community, their current condition, and how does it connect with the desired condition? How do we get there? So that's what a needs assessment does. You might want to you could go over some of these questions just to, before they watch it. What's nice about the videos being short is if you ask these questions and they're like, well, I don't understand, you can, rewind and show the part and then see if they can figure it out. So as a trainer, you might want to just put in these little parentheses, like what number the video is it at, like 50 seconds. David talks about this. And if your students don't get it, you can go back and say, well, let's listen again and then see if you can figure it out. There's something, I don't know if this is in the Russian version. I did have to change some things. Yeah, so there was initially there were like 8 different areas of focus for creating a project, but I had to take that out, and I'm not sure if the language was changed in the Russian version of this. So basically, the students will generate their own idea for a project. You might see, I'll just jump into the Russian version, that it wasn't, it might not have been updated in the Russian version. So if there's talk of doing a project in a certain, like, I don't know, sphere, let me just check this. Basically, we can't have, we can't make these suggestions. It was more, they have to come up with their own. Yeah, yeah, so this is one change, and maybe I'll change it and send you a re-edit, is initially we had planned specific like areas of focus, but they were areas of focus that it was suggested that the students come up with it themselves, and so I took that out, but I had a nice little graphic for it. I took that out of the manual, but I didn't change the language in the planning. So it says in your project groups, you choose an area of focus presented by your facilitator. Basically, maybe you can do this as a group all together, like identify areas that are like areas where you could do different projects. So there's talk of areas of focus. There are no areas of focus because I took them out, but I forgot to change the language. I'm sorry. So you would have them start working on a needs assessment, discussing what needs there are in the community, and making it more of a grassroots kind of thing. So at this stage, they would be discussing, talking about, you might have to give them some ideas to get them jump started about what kind of project they want to do, what area it would be, and what is, what would be available to them. Okay. So the needs assessment part is really kind of crucial. And it could be, a project doesn't mean it has to be something grandiose. It could be something as simple as, teaching English, teaching writing skills, I don't know, some sort of skill you have that your students have that they can work on. It could be computer training, or how to use a smartphone for a certain group of, I love my babushki, so I always go back to the babushki. So maybe there are a lot of, how do babushki stay connected how does babushki use Telegram, for example? They don't know how to use it. How can you improve their communication with their families and friends around the country, you know. So maybe you want to, that's something, it'd be simple as that. So getting them to think of needs is it can be a challenge. And so this is where you and your expertise comes in, is like really getting them to think of needs assess a need of a community. And sometimes, you know, I've had students who really know this is a need of the community. And then when you get into vision, goals, and objectives, they kind of go, oh, well, it's all kind of sloppy. And they have to go back and rethink the needs assessment. Hopefully, you won't have that problem when you're doing your PDM. Now we're getting to the serious stuff, vision, goals, and objectives. And I would suggest you take your time with this and really, you know, really analyze things and getting them to understand what are good vision, goals, and objectives. Here I put a little graph, and there's 3 visions, 3 goals, and 3 objectives. And in your in the Russian version as well as the English, there are the answers. So maybe you didn't look through it yet. So for the vision, which one of those 3 that you see on the screen? We will educate all people of our country to make it better. Let's provide jobs to everyone that wants one. Raise awareness on the dangers of human trafficking to stop people from leaving the country. Which one sounds like a good vision? 1, 2, or 3? You can drop it in the chat or just hold up your fingers or unmute yourself.
Actually, personally, none of them sound like a vision to me.
Oh, okay. Which one sounds closest to a vision? If I made you choose one, Nastya, which one would it be?
A third one.
Yes, the third one. It's that's the tricky thing of a vision. Like the first 2 are definitely, they're too broad. And the third one is closest. I made them a little like vague to kind of give them my ideas, but a vision is a broad idea. So here we have an area, we want to combat human trafficking. Okay, great. How are you going to do that? And that's where the goals come in and the objectives. And for the goals, which one sounds more like a goal?
What about the first one?
Well, we're just helping. That could be somebody's personal goal or something, but it's, you know, it's very specific and it's for one person. Actually, number 2. Take a look at 2.
Good evening. I just want to ask you about the goals, but if we look to that, we should put the goal according to like smart technology, like it's reasonable and time bound. None of them like actually lead to this, because if you're looking with all goals, we don't see what the schedule, what the deadline of this goal. At least some.
In this PDM thing, it's the objectives that are going to be smart, and this is where it might be confusing. So the smart part would be under the one of the objectives. So a goal is something, a vision is a broad statement. A goal is a little more specific, but not too specific. So number 2 is, you know, is a little more specific than, I mean, it's more of a, sounds more of a goal than the other 2.
Thank you. I see. I'm good.
And then for the objectives, going back to, that's Yekaterina, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, and for the objectives, number 1 is more of a specific, is of an objective because it's specific. You know, the number of, you know, student or teachers. So we're going to give training to 50 English teachers in a curriculum to improve speaking skills. I could add to this over 3 months, or something like that. This is becoming more specific. The other 2 are just a little too vague or not specific, you know, not really much of an objective. Or not achievable. How can we ensure children in public schools have good drinking water? Is that might be too large to be an objective. Teach young people at our school on the dangers of smoking. It's also, how do we measure that? You know, they're a little vague. So this one, you know, with a number, I could add an amount of time, and it becomes a really kind of solid objective. I give you full license to, if you want to change these and make it something that makes more sense to you, since there's a bit of debate on these. If you want to make it so it's clearer to you in teaching that, you are welcome to change these if you would like. These are just examples, but I think it's good to provide something like this as a framework to getting them thinking about them. I kind of mix them up, and what might be better is if, you know, they were all kind of the same theme across the vision, goal, objectives. So that might be less confusing. But do take time with this, get them to understand the vision, goals, and objectives. And Yekaterina, going back to what you said, goals, you were trying to make, the goals are smart, but and in some other ways of doing these trainings, they talk about SMART goals, but here we talk about SMART objectives. That the objectives and goals are kind of similar, but and David explains it in the video of that he talks about SMART objectives, and SMART goals are similar, but for these matters, we call them objectives.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
explaining. Yes, now I got the idea that it's development of a clear objective, and it's actually really cool because person cannot give exact objective right away, so it's better to develop. So now I got the idea. So thank you.
All right, good. And it's, you know, to be honest, I still have trouble with some of these, and like, you know, we do a lot of monitoring and evaluation, and like you have the goal, and you know, and some of it is just the language of like what are the outcomes and things like that. So you know, it does take time to get your brain around these and then be able to explain them to other people. So you know, if I wanted to do a vision of like, well, I want to do training, I don't know, improve the leadership skills of young people in my community. Great. How am I going to do that? Well, I can go, here's a goal. I'll provide trainings to high school students on youth leadership. Great. And then for an objective for this, I will do, you know, 10 sessions of on leadership and effective communication for 100 high school students at this school. So it becomes very specific. You know, you go from more general to more specific. I know we're getting close to our 2-hour mark, so I'm gonna finish this up in a sec. Vision goals objective video. There's a few questions here, and you know, take time, especially indicators of success is something you might want to touch upon in this session, because it's like as you're putting together your vision, your goals, and objectives, you want to think of what the indicators of success. How am I going to show success? How do I know that, you know, 100 high school students you know, learned leadership skills or became leaders? How do I show that? And in this thing, David talks about indicators of success for his JoJo's or his chickens. So at this stage, you would go back to the workbook and use the vision, goals, and objective chart and have them start working on that to fill in their vision, goals, and objectives for their project. So by this point, students have done a needs assessment, and they figured out some sort of, based on that, what is okay, here's the need, and how do we put that into a vision? And that vision, what are the goals for that vision, and what are the objectives? So that's going to take you some time, and really get students to understand that. Once they understand it and they fill this out, they can again share their vision, goals, objectives with another group or with the whole group. You can do it in different ways, and getting feedback to make sure that they're clear. So those are the first 4 sessions, and those are kind of the analysis stage of it. And then we're going to get into sort of more of the action and the activity tomorrow. Are there any questions you have before we have 7 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions or want to share anything, I would love to hear feedback.
I just wanted to mention that I've been listening to a goal setting seminar last week, and it was interesting that they mentioned that when we are talking about smart approach to goal setting or objective setting, that this approach at some point ignores the emotional state of the person who is making that. So for example, if the person actually makes the goal being smart, he or she also needs to look and see if their resources as energy resources, or like, for example, if the person wants to earn like this certain amount of money and the tobacco company can give him or her this position and he actually can get this position, but he or she is against the smoking. So there is like this emotional conflict. So there are different levels, but I'm just thinking that this is maybe too deep, but so it's very good for project management. I don't think that this is worth mentioning at the training when we're going to give it to the group, but I just wanted to share that as a piece that I just last week actually was listening to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Food for thought.
I've never thought about that. But that's talking about like a larger project, not something like a community.
Any smart goal setting, right? So
okay.
when you use your smart, you also need, there's like a smart so like the emotional resource.
Oh, smarte.
Smarte.
Huh, that's interesting. So the emotional state of a person, is that something like also like, oh, I really want to do, like someone, their strong desire to do something in a community,
and maybe even readiness. So like you know that to lose 10 kilograms, you need to do this many sit-ups for this many weeks, and so you know all that, but your emotional state, like maybe you're so burnt out, you don't have the resource to do it yet. Like many people know what they need to do to lose weight very well, but
Yeah.
for some reason they don't, or they know they don't need to run across the road where there's no zebra. They still do.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that this emotional piece is also crucial to analyze when you're setting this goal, so you know at what stage you are emotionally. So even if you know what to do, so the goal is reachable, you still need to be able to have the emotional strength for that. For me, it was an insight. I was so like overachieving, determined, like, yes, we need to, like, everything is so structured, but I thought that actually there is a piece that you need to consider for the success as something that I overlooked in my previous projects, and at some points it's been affecting the result. Even the goal was set with the SMART strategy.
Interesting. I'm writing that down. Emotional state. Okay. Good. Any other questions or comments anyone has? Tomorrow we'll be discussing the other 4 parts of 4 sessions. At the same time, so please join me for that. If you do have any questions before then, you can ask Masha. Hi, Masha. So, and then we could, or you could just write them down and ask tomorrow as part of our warm-up. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for your participation. And I'm doing a drive across America. So today it says I'm in Chicago. Tomorrow it'll be a different place. So look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for your participation today. And thank you, Masha, for setting this all up and organizing it. And I think the Zoom link and the meeting and everything, it's a different one for tomorrow, right?
It is different, and the password and all the information different, but everyone has it in their calendars and in their emails.
Okay. All right. Well,
and I will be looking for new questions for the poll. So, and participants should prepare that it's going to be a poll also.
Yes. Okay. I will send you those questions ASAP.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.